Summer, heat, Los Angeles. People sleep with open windows, hoping for a breeze. But with the night air comes something else. Not silence, not peace, footsteps. Heavy breathing. A shadow that later would be called Night Stalker. His real name, Richard Ramirez. But for those who survived, he was not a man. He was fear itself. Richard was born in Texas. His family lived in poverty, and his father was violent and strict. As a child, Richard witnessed scenes no child should ever see. One of the strongest influences on him was his cousin Mike, a Vietnam veteran. Mike showed him photographs of tortured prisoners, told him stories of cruelty. For young Richard, this wasn't horror. It was power. Soon he started stealing, using substances, and spending nights in graveyards. Among the dead, he felt safer than among the living. In 1984, he moved to California. For most, Los Angeles was the city of dreams. For Richard, it was a hunting ground. One of the earliest known victims was a 9-year-old girl named May Leung. She disappeared near her home and was later discovered in a basement. What happened to her was so unspeakable that investigators struggled to believe one man could do it. For Ramirez, it was only the beginning. His method was simple: choose a random house, break in at night, and turn it into a nightmare. In June 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vincow was found lifeless in her home. Her body showed signs of brutal violence. In March 1985, he attacked Maria Hernandez and Dale Okazaki. Maria survived by sheer luck, but Dale lost her life. The very same evening, he struck again, targeting Tsai and Yu in her car. People realized this was no accident. A predator was on the loose. Richard had no pattern. He targeted young and old, men and women. He used knives, guns, ropes, even random objects he found in homes. The most horrifying case was Vincent and Maxine Zazera. Vincent was shot in the bedroom. Maxine was brutally tortured, and her eyes were taken as a trophy. Even hardened detectives were shaken. He left strange marks, symbols, and whispered words that sounded like dark rituals. For many, he was not just a criminal, but someone possessed by something darker. Meanwhile, Los Angeles was drowning in fear. Sales of locks and alarm systems skyrocketed. Gun shops were emptied. Families slept with lights on. No one felt safe. Witnesses gave descriptions: a tall, thin man, long hair, decayed teeth, a terrifying grin. Survivors remembered the stench of his breath, the fire in his eyes. One night, he left a footprint on a carpet, a rare obvious shoe print. That became the clue police needed. In August 1985, his face appeared on every front page. The next day, Ramirez tried to steal a car, but people recognized him. Dozens of citizens surrounded him, beat him, held him down, shouting, "We got him!" until police arrived. The nightmare was finally over. The trial began in 1989. Ramirez acted like it was a show. He smirked, raised his hand in a devil horn gesture, and shouted, "Hail Satan!" Prosecutors listed charge after charge: lives taken, assaults, kidnappings. The jury sentenced him to 19 death penalties. But the execution never happened. He spent the rest of his life behind bars, eventually dying of illness. His end was pathetic compared to the terror he once unleashed. The story of Richard Ramirez is not legend. It is not fiction. It is real. He chose his targets without pattern, rich or poor, young or old, man or woman. To him, Every soul was just another opportunity for chaos. Los Angeles still remembers the summer of 1985, when windows were nailed shut, when every creak at night could mean death, when the entire city lived in panic. And if you think such monsters only exist in the past, remember, real monsters don't hide under your bed. They walk the same streets as you do. So when you hear footsteps outside your door tonight, ask yourself, what if someone out there is hunting again? They say that deep in the forest, far from any road, stands a ruin. Once it was an asylum. Now it's only charred walls and corridors where the wind howls instead of patience. You'd better stay away from that place, locals whisper. You can still hear someone calling your name inside. Tonight, I will tell you the story of this asylum. But be warned, put on your headphones. Because some sounds are better heard alone. In the 1940s, the asylum was built here. Officially, to help people. But the whispers told a different story. Patients complained. Instead of medicine, they were strapped to metal beds, subjected to electric shocks, loud noises, flashing lights. One patient, named Thomas, wrote to his sister, "I don't feel human anymore. When they turn on the machines, the world becomes white noise. There is no day or night here, only screaming." Neighbors claimed they could hear those screams echoing through the woods at night. When the asylum was shut down, the official reason was lack of funds, staff reduction. But the truth was different. Too many had disappeared. People simply vanished. Records said, patient transferred. But no hospital ever confirmed receiving them. Years later, when the building was already abandoned, local teenagers dared to enter. One of them, Kevin, swore, "We were standing in the corridor, and I heard the walls whisper my name. At first soft, Kevin, then louder. But no one else was there." Another boy interrupted, "Don't lie. I heard it too. But they weren't calling you. They were calling me." In 1987, a group of explorers decided to film a documentary. 4 went in. 1 came out. He carried a torn journal. Inside were frantic sketches, faces scratched into the walls, endless corridors, eyeless shadows. The final entry read, "The doors won't open anymore. We hear footsteps behind us, but the hallway is empty. If I don't come back, burn this place down." The survivor spoke little. His only words, "There's something there. But it's not human." Locals still argue about what's worse, the upper floors or the basement. "Down there, the air feels alive, like it's breathing with you," one said. "We went down with flashlights. Something crawled in the dark, up on the ceiling. When they raised their lights, they saw pale figures moving across the walls. No eyes. Mouths open in eternal screams." One boy shouted, "Run!" But the door slammed shut on its own. In 2013, a film crew entered to shoot a ghost hunting episode. Not all of them came back. One cameraman, half mad, muttered at the police station, "They didn't want us to film. They followed me. I saw faces staring into the lens." The rest refused to speak. The footage vanished. But fragments leaked online, only blackness, static, and a distorted voice repeating, "Don't leave me here." Today the asylum still stands, hidden by moss and trees. Some say it's just a ruin. Others say it's a gate, not to hell, but to something worse. A place where suffering lingers, feeding on anyone who dares to step inside. So if you ever wander through the woods and see crumbling walls covered in moss, stop. Because once you take that step inside, The door behind you may never open again. And if you hear someone whisper your name from the dark, don't answer. On the edge of a small village flows a river. It looks ordinary, quiet ripples, reeds, a wooden bridge. But locals call it the River of the Dead. They say if you come too close at night, you'll hear voices. Come back, step closer, the river whispers. And many who heard its call never returned home. The earliest records date back to the 19th century. Farmers complained that people vanished in the river. Sometimes a boat or clothes were found on the bank, but the people themselves, never. One priest wrote. They walked to the water on their own, as if something lured them. Even children would rise at night and wander barefoot toward the river. In 1996, 3 teenagers decided to spend a night by the river. They laughed, roasted bread over a fire, and recorded on a cassette tape. The tape survived. Do you hear that? It's calling my name. Come on, it's just the wind. Then footsteps, splashing water, a scream, and silence. One of them was never found. A villager named Nikolai told the story of his brother. He came home late and went to wash his face by the river. I saw him standing at the bank. Then suddenly he stepped into the water, as if someone was holding his hand. I ran after him, but the water was empty. No trace. Only ripples spreading on the surface. Since that night, Nikolai claims he hears his own name whispered in the reeds. In 2010, a group of students decided to test the legend. They set up cameras along the bank. On the footage, the water looked calm, but voices echoed from the reeds, clear, human voices, calling names. One student suddenly shouted, "They're calling me! I'm going!" His friends grabbed him by the arms. But on the video, a pale, thin hand rose from the water, slick and dripping, grabbing his leg. The camera shut off. In 2021, a phone was found near the bank. It contained one recording. A girl's trembling voice whispered, "I hear him. He's calling me. But it's my father's voice. He died 10 years ago. He says, 'Come to me, my daughter.'" Then the sound of splashing water. A scream. The recording ends. The girl was never found. In 2008, an old fisherman told reporters he once saw a man standing waist deep in the river. "I shouted at him, 'Get out! The current will drag you under.' But he didn't move. He only stared straight ahead. When the fisherman blinked, the man was gone. Only ripples remained, moving against the current. In the 1940s, the asylum was built here, officially, to help people. But the whispers told a different story. Patients complained, instead of medicine, they were strapped to metal beds, subjected to electric shocks, loud noises, flashing lights. One patient, named Thomas, wrote to his sister, "I don't feel human anymore. When they turn on the machines, the world becomes white noise. There is no day or night here, only screaming." Neighbors claimed they could hear those screams echoing through the woods at night. When the asylum was shut down, the official reason was lack of funds, staff reduction. But the truth was different. Too many had disappeared. People simply vanished. Records said, patient transferred. But no hospital ever confirmed receiving them. Years later, when the building was already abandoned, local teenagers dared to enter. One of them, Kevin, swore, "We were standing in the corridor, and I heard the walls whisper my name. At first soft, Kevin, then louder. But no one else was there." Another boy interrupted, "Don't lie. I heard it too. But they weren't calling you. They were calling me.